What's going on, guys? Danny with Gear Candy, and we've got another phone review. It's the Galaxy 8 Plus, and we're gonna review this thing right now. First, let's start off with that camera sensor. The rear sensor for this camera is the same as last year. The S7 Edge had the exact same camera. The pictures are still just as good. I actually did not have an issue with the camera last year, and this year it would have been nice to have an upgrade, but we don't have an upgrade, so it is what it is. Coming from the Pixel to this phone, I actually missed this camera quite a bit because of the features that it brings. One of the best features is the skin tone feature. When you take selfies, it smooths out your skin, it smooths out other people's skin. They've got a couple other filters in there, but that's one of the ones that I missed the most. And now they've got some Snapchat type filters you can have a lot of fun with. Rabbits, animals, whatever it is. You can put those things on you as you're looking at the camera, snap a picture, and you can send it to everybody. The nice thing about this is a lot of people were downloading the Snapchat app. Now, a lot of people were downloading the Snapchat app to get those filter settings, and now you can get them right on the phone. And the nice thing is the pictures aren't stuck in that ecosystem. You can share these pictures out to just about anybody. So it's a lot of fun to have with yourself, with the kids, with friends. It's a really cool little feature. Now, what is new on the camera for this year is the front sensor. The front sensor is now an 8 megapixel sensor. It's really clear. I remember back in the day when the front sensors were horrible. Now the front sensors are just as good as the rear sensors. So it's nice to see that they put some effort into that front sensor. It seems to be a little bit wider to me. The pictures are definitely way clearer than they used to be. So good job, Samsung. Now let's talk about my favorite feature on this phone. Look at that damn screen right there. Look at that screen. That is ridiculous. We have what's called the infinity display. It's 6.2 inches of goodness. Hardly any forehead, hardly any chin, the same edge panels, edge sides as last year, but now with those small chin and forehead, the screen, the front of the phone pretty much looks like if it was all screen. This is definitely the future for all screens going forward. The G6 already has it, now Samsung. It's rumored that the new Apple 8, Apple Edition, whatever they're calling it, is gonna have it as well. But it's just a beautiful display to look at. When you look at your phone, all you see is screen, and it's just beautiful. There's no other way to describe it. What you mainly interact with on the phone is the screen, and to have such a beautiful display on the phone is what's always attracted me to Samsung. They've always been the leaders in this space, and they continue to pioneer. Now it is 6.2 inch, so they've bumped up from 5.5 from last year to 6.2. But honestly, you don't really notice it in terms of the physical size because those chins and that forehead is so small. They've just maximized the amount of screen that they could put in this thing, so the form factor is still pretty much the same. Now, as far as the hardware is concerned, it feels really good in the hand. You've got a curved front and a curved back on the sides, so it gives the phone a very comfortable feel when you're gripping it. There's no sharp edges. Everything's very refined and polished. It's interesting to see how far Samsung's come in the last few years. I remember when their phones were plastic and everybody would give them grief over it. Now we've got nothing but glass and metal, and it's a beautiful, beautiful design. As far as the speaker's concerned, I don't think they really did much this year. It seems very similar to last year's model. I'm not crazy about the placement of the speaker, so low and close to the charge port there, and there's only one, so it's easy to block it. You don't get that stereo sound immersion like with the Huawei P9. It's definitely loud and clear, but it would be nice to see some sort of innovation from Samsung here. At least a stereo implementation would have been nice. Now, as far as the colors are concerned, there's 3 colors offered. There's the Midnight Black, there's the Arctic Silver, which is the one I purchased, and there's the Orchid Gray, which was really hard to get. It's got sort of a blue tint to it, so I guess a lot of people gravitated towards that one because it was sold out pretty much immediately. Now, as far as the performance is concerned, we have a Snapdragon 835 processor, all new for this year. It's an octa-core processor. 4 cores are running at 2.35 gigahertz. The other 4 are running at 1.95 gigahertz. Included with that is also 4 gigabytes of memory. I really haven't noticed any performance issues aside of the occasional lagginess here and there with the animations, but overall the phone is a beast. It runs really smoothly. All the apps that I use run really great on it. It games really well. When I'm multitasking between apps, it seems to be able to keep up. It's definitely a bump up from last year, but it's not light years ahead. Now this year, we've only got one option for storage. We're at 64 gigabytes internal memory. Samsung is still blessing us with micro SD expandability. You can upgrade the storage up to 256 gigabytes with that micro SD card. Now, as far as unlock security is concerned, I think Samsung is still the leaders in this space. They're the ones that seem to be pioneering and bringing new features to market. There are three main ones that I want to highlight in this phone. First, we've got the iris scanner, very similar to the Note 7. They've brought it to the S8. Thank you, Samsung. We have a new one called face recognition, which I actually didn't configure because I've already read that you can take somebody's picture and put it up to the phone and unlock the device. So it's not the most secure thing, and the app actually warns you when you're setting it up that it's not the most secure option. So I'm thinking this is one that they're just kind of throwing in there just to have another option. It is what it is. And then there's the fingerprint sensor. The problem with the fingerprint sensor, it works great. The problem is the damn placement. Every time I go to put my finger on this thing, I'm either rubbing the flash, I'm either rubbing the camera itself, which puts smudges all over the camera, and then I finally get to the fingerprint sensor. It's the worst placement you could possibly pick to put a fingerprint sensor on. They should have just went with the normal middle of the back. It's where your finger naturally gravitates to. So I'm not sure why Samsung decided to do this. I think they're just trying to be different from the Pixel, but you know what? Sometimes you just gotta go with what works. Now, it's not the most sensitive sensor either. There's plenty of times where I've tried to touch it and it didn't unlock the phone. So it's good, but it needs work. You know, Samsung, put the thing in the middle and maybe make the sensor a little bit more sensitive. Now let's talk about Bigsby. Bigsby? I don't know. Bigsby is sort of one of those hit or misses, and I think for a lot of people it's gonna be a miss. Samsung's got this weird thing where they like to mimic Google apps. Bigsby is another one of those endeavors. It's basically a Google Now, and there's really no difference between it. So I'm not sure why they're trying to make this a flagship feature, because it's a feature I've hardly used. It's okay, I mean, it shows you Google cards, but we already had that, so what's the big deal? Now, the worst part about Bigsby by far is the dedicated hardware button on the side of the phone. Problem with that is, more often than not, because it's so close to that volume rocker, you end up hitting the Bigsby button by accident as opposed to the volume, and it's extremely annoying. One of the main features that Bigsby was gonna offer is being a personal assistant. And another fail is that there is no voice commands as of yet. They're promising it for the, I don't know, end of the month, next month, but the phone launched, Bigsby was a huge part of it. There's no voice commands, so a good 50% of the application you were touting doesn't work. Now, the good news is I did read an article the other day that said the Bigsby button. Now, the good news is I did read an article that stated that the Bigsby button will be remappable in a later firmware revision. Hopefully that comes sooner than later. When that happens, it'll be nice to map that button to something you actually want to use, or just leave it blank. But overall, Bigsby is very gimmicky. It has good information, and you know, I try to use it. I really try to force myself to use everything that the manufacturer offers, but it's no different than Google Now, the Google Now cards, and I didn't really use that as much, so I'm trying to use it. I think there's a little bit of value there if you already use Google Now cards, but if you don't, Bigsby is a complete, just forget about it. As far as battery life is concerned, we've got 3,500 milliamps on this phone. These have also got fast charging, so you're never gonna have a battery issue on this phone. I haven't had a battery issue at all. I use my phone quite a bit, so I can tell you right now, there's nothing to worry about here. Now, we've still got IP68 waterproofing on this phone, so you can use it during when it's raining outside, in the beach, in the pool. It's one of the great things about IP68. You can dunk it into about 3 feet of water and not have to worry at all. A few extra things I wanted to mention. The always on display is something I actually forgot about. They're still doing it on the S8. This is a great feature. I absolutely love being able to just glance at my phone and see notifications, my time, and it doesn't kill the battery whatsoever. And new for this year is a new way to access your apps. Instead of having an actual app button on the home screen taking up space, all you have to do is swipe down on the home screen and you can access your apps. Now, if you don't like that feature, you can still bring back the app button, but I actually like not having that extra button on my screen and just being able to down swipe to get to my apps. Now, there's not many cons with this device. I've been using it for about 2-3 weeks now. I did have one instance where I had to reboot the phone because there was no sound coming out of it. I was getting notifications, nothing was happening. I thought maybe it was a setting. I went into notifications in the sound settings and I would pick a different sound and nothing would happen. Rebooted the phone, everything was fine. I thought that was a little weird and I was a little concerned at first, but it hasn't happened ever since. It's been about 2 weeks now since I rebooted the phone and everything's been fine. There's still a hint of lag on this phone. I think it has something to do with the animations, but every now and then when you're doing a lot of things on their phone and you swap between apps, or you go, let's say, into the app tray and you go back to the home screen, you'll notice that little hiccup every now and then, but it's only really when you're using the device quite a bit, and it's definitely a whole lot less than the S7 Edge. Now that brings me to my final con. The final con is not really with the phone itself, but Samsung still makes it and it's for the S8 Plus, so I have to bring it up. This right here is supposed to be a clear case. Now, last I checked, that is not a clear case. I actually think it might be defective. I'm gonna probably send this case back for another one in the hopes that I get an actual clear case. This is what your clear case normally looks like after using it for about a year. So I'm not sure what Samsung was thinking. It looks horrible on the phone because it's, you know, this like milky look. It's just terrible. So if I do get another one and it looks like this, I'm actually gonna send it back and go for a black one instead. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you have an S8? Do you have an S8 Plus? Are you thinking of upgrading to it? I've actually had really no issues with the phone aside from the few things that I mentioned in the cons. Overall, they've done a really good job with the phone. I can tell you right now, guys, it's the screen. You buy this phone for the screen. If you're a screen person, you're gonna fall in love with this phone. As soon as I saw it, I knew this was gonna be a winner. I'm actually upgrading from the Google Pixel to this phone, and so far I've been really liking the device. Like I said, that screen just makes everything great. Using it has been awesome. I absolutely love the phone. I have no reason right now to go back to the Pixel. The only reason that I could maybe think of is performance related, like if I start having those, you know, having to reboot the phone all the time or something like that. But so far, one reboot, we're still good. So don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying the content, guys. If you're already subscribed, thank you. Don't forget to hit the little bell next to the subscription link. If you haven't subscribed and you're enjoying the video, consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot. I'll catch you guys in the next one.